From beautiful downtown Sacramento, it's time for Beach Blanket Fort Bingo.
Beach Blanket Fort Bingo. Beach Blanket, Fort Bingo, Fort Bingo. Spazzy's got a show when you really want to know what's going on. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Beach Blanket, Fort Bingo, Fort Bingo. Art and music, golden blue, and your favorite comics too. Grab a spot and settle in, 'cause it's high time we begin. Beach Blanket Fort Bingo Podcast. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But you should be the one that I call for when you're all alone. I got a love that won't fade away, but you've got no time for loving me in your heart. What a sin it is, you've got no time.
Hello and welcome to Beach Blanket Fort Bingo. I'm your host, Steve Schnee, and as you can see, we've got a supersized episode for you. Before I introduce our very special guests, I'd like to introduce my co-hosts. My regular co-host recently moved from his comfy LA bungalow to a secret location in Northern California. Previously known as the Troubled Taco King of Calabasas, he now proudly proclaims himself to be the Donut King of Psychedelia. However, we are all lucky to call him our frisky little friend. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Pancake Circus himself, Ronnie Barnett.
Hey, thank you, Steve. All true as usual. Thank you.
Nearly 7 feet tall, our guest co-host has been crowned the world's tallest crustacean 3 years running by the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. He's a fan of jazz music, and yet we still allowed him to be part of this very special episode. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Rob the Waxed.
Golf clap.
And now I'd like to introduce our very special guests with hits like The Rain, the Park, and Other Things, Hair, and their version of the Love American Style theme. They've enriched our lives with joyful harmonies and heart-lifting melodies for decades. The epitome of sunshine pop, the Cowsills represented the uplifting heart and soul of America during a dark time in the late 1960s. And thankfully for us, they've continued to create music over the years. Their critically acclaimed 1998 album Global has been out of print for decades, but it is now being reissued by Omnivore Recordings, and the group's members are here to talk about it. It is an honor to have them on the show and to chat about this monumental album. We are excited to have the Cowsills joining us today. Welcome to the Blanket Fort, Bob, Susan, John, and hopefully Paul. Thank you, everybody.
Hey.
Thank you, Steve. We appreciate you referencing our arrival on the music scene in the 1960s and how we brought a light and fluffy and unintimidating sound for the country in dark times. I like that contrast. Thank you.
And thanks. That's all the time we have right now. So
And actually, we just described today, nothing's changed. Okay. Now we got dark times today. So now we have more uplifting, happy music to help out.
Well,
that's our goal.
I have a show on Mixcloud and a show and a live stream on YouTube called This Is Ski Lodge, and the Cowsills, Rain, the Park, and Other Things, the Yellow Balloon, and the Carnival, all inspired the show. Those are the three songs that really. So whenever I hear the Rain, the Park, and Other Things, it takes me to another place. But I have to say that my favorite Cowsills albums are Global and Rhythm of the World. As a whole, these are amazing records. These people have been waiting for these to be, or for Global to be reissued. How are you feeling now about the fact that it's finally going to get the love and attention it has always deserved?
Wow, you make it sound like a puppy, like an adult, like we're the
Beatles.
and now.
It is. Yeah.
But it is.
Well, who wants to go on that?
You go, Bob.
Oh, Bob.
Start, Bob.
Where's your baby? Come on.
Where's Polly
Listen,
though? Keep going.
These last well, text him, Susan.
Okay, well,
We really appreciate the fact that, in your opinion, and we value it highly, that the most recent two albums that we've done are your favorite, even though don't counting all the albums. You're right. There's a lot to pick from. Thank you for that. Global has been dead in the water twice. At the very end of the sessions, it was dead in the water. We can bring Paul in now. He's coming in. I can see him.
I see that
hot
too.
dog.
Yeah.
I just texted him.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
he's-
so it's been twice resurrected. This being the second time now. The first we resurrected it. So it's had two resurrections. That's pretty amazing. And
it's very
the
impressive,
one being
really.
today, all these decades later, makes it even more astonishing. Hey, Pablo.
Hey,
Hi,
sorry guys.
Pablo! The
Hey,
tone.
these guys will tell you not 20 minutes ago were we kibitzing about, oh God, I thought it was already on and all this, and I came on and went, oh yeah, I've set an alarm, I've done this. Man, I was watching a Life Below Zero, and all of a sudden it was like, oh my God. So
Polly.
I apologize.
well, that's okay. The
because-
interview's over now. So thanks,
Yeah.
Cool,
guys.
man.
We'll
I'll see you
later.
later. I'm back to Life Below Zero.
Yeah, what
Listen,
what
we
episode?
did comment. We did comment that we had just said that we all took turns all day forgetting and remembering and forgetting and remembering.
Paul. And by the way, kudos to Paul's honesty for admitting that it
Damn
was
right.
not a compound ankle fracture on the farm that prevented this. It was life below
Tire,
zero.
flat
Yeah.
tire always works. Still to this day,
big
good flat
boy.
tire will get you out of everything.
Okay,
So, Paul, go ahead, Steve. I'll bring him up to date. Paul, Steve just let us know that his favorite two albums of all time, of all Cowsill albums that ever existed, are Rhythm of the World and Global. And so that's as far as we've gone. We've been visiting since then and getting to know each other's personalities.
Yeah,
Cool.
Yeah, that's it.
I got to know Bob and Susan very well during this.
Just in the last 6 minutes, it's been
Yeah.
very revealing. Yeah, feeling it.
All right.
now you were
Steve.
saying, Bob, that the album was dead in the water twice after recording.
Yes, after we recorded it, it was immediately killed. And it was like almost, it would have been involuntary manslaughter because no one meant to do it, okay? But it was killed right away, man. It was dead. And then 6 or 7 years go by, and then the internet comes, and with the internet comes resurrection of Global. You make 3,000 copies, you sell it in 23 countries, you're out of copies, it's over, it's done, and that was that. Critically acclaimed is a wonderful thing, you know, but it's only one half of the sword. So it's great to be critically acclaimed, but you know, whatever on that. So are we thinking where the Beatles and Rhythm of the World and Global transfers into top charting positions, even though it deserves it? We don't do it that way
No.
anymore. We don't do it that way anymore. We're just happy that people found us, found that record again, that Brad thought it was great. And even our next one, Cocaine Drain, and a cappella album, we got other stuff, that it became a wider project for the Cowsills and Omnivore, not just one record at all. And here we are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can we? Sorry, Steve. Can we go back just a little bit because I moved to Los Angeles, not too far back. Don't worry. I moved to Los
I
Angeles
want to
in
go
mid.
further back than you're going.
I'm not going that far back. I moved to Los Angeles in mid 1989, and the Cowsills were playing, right? So, like, how did you guys come to like reform at that point? And I mean, Bob, did you just have these like great songs laying around that are they stockpiled? And you decided
Some
just to,
songs, but I can't. Somebody else answer. John has a real good memory. Paul, why was that when we were doing the clubs? Paul, we were doing
Yes.
the Club
Yeah,
88.
we were doing
Lingerie.
club lingerie and all that, but basically it goes like this. Every 10 years, it seemed, something would come up, some little whatever, like Good Morning America would call, and they would go, hey, we're wondering where
Where
you've
are
been.
you?
Hey, would you come on the show? Well, as soon as that happens, all of a sudden you're going, oh, wow, here it goes again. And so you start, paying more attention to, well, should we record or, should we write? Should we do this? Should we do that? All off of just one little thing that keeps happening through our lives because of everything, because of the Partridge Family keeping us alive all through the
Katrina made it
70s.
got us back
And then we
together at one
decided
point.
we'd come out in the 80s. And so, I don't know if it's funny because it's almost not like an artistic decision. It's more
Yeah.
physical, more organic. Like, oh, shouldn't we be playing? Or I don't know. I mean,
Well,
it's a hard question to answer. Yeah, John.
I can spin a light on how Global came about because I was working with Jan and Dean, and I saw, wow, I know people who book shows and stuff. So I went to Bob first and I said, hey man, we could do gigs, we can do like these oldie things, and it's like all these things, but you don't have to be an oldie band doing them, but it's hard to do that. And somehow, and I don't remember this, I think it was Lori from Dick Clark's office. We ended up having a meeting with Dick Clark Productions, and we all went in there, not really sure what we were there for. Cavalcade of Star kind of band, but we were going to hear what they had to say. And I think it was the most funniest thing that happened because we went in there, Dick Clark was there, and then he's out of the office. So we're just sitting there looking at each other like, what, like, do we want to do this? It's like, I think there was some conversation.
We kind of said we were going to do it, and then we went to eat, and then we decided we weren't.
Happened in the office, and
Funny happened.
Hang on, let me finish. I'm talking. Something happened in the office that made us somehow leave that place, and I don't remember the details. Okay, well,
The contract wasn't ready.
we
went to eat.
We didn't sign with them, is what happened, and we left. And we said, well, why don't we just do something new? And Bob had already started the writing process. Didn't know it was going to be for Global, but he'd already written
recording
songs with his wife.
That's it.
All right,
Johnny, you got it.
Paul.
That's how it got popped.
Paul,
Okay,
give
am
the
I
detail
close,
that's
everybody?
missing.
Yeah, you're really
Paul has
close.
a detail.
Okay.
Hold on, stop. Paul, tell him at the meeting why we went to that restaurant and changed our mind.
So we get to the meeting, and unbeknownst to everybody in that office, the contract is not ready to be signed. And so
we
they
came
go,
in
gee,
for.
could you come back after lunch? And so, it was funny, just 1 second. Our friend Jack Levitt set this all up, and he was so excited we were going to do this. But anyway, so we go down out of the building, and we're on the sidewalk, literally, and we're going, oh, wow, okay, so, wow, no contract. And then that conversation came up, John, where everybody, Bob, we were all going, well, gosh, are we ready to just sell out and not do original material anymore? And guys, we could have done them both, but we didn't know it at the time. And and that was it. And so we said no, but we never went up and said no. We just said no. And then we called Jack Levitt, and he said the no, and he was freaked out because we said no.
Now,
would this have been the
amazingly-
first package tour that you guys would have done, or had you done them before? Okay.
Ever. That was the first one. We
Okay.
did co-bills with like Paul Revere and the Raiders, Tommy James and Shondells, but never been on a cavalcade of stars where you go out and do your few songs.
Right.
Yeah, right.
None of that shit.
Now,
Yeah.
what were you all doing before that?
Drugs.
Well, everyone's
And
doing
a lot of them.
people are doing
tell you.
drugs today, by the way.
Not all of us, by the way.
No,
When we collected ourselves, look, if Dick Clark has an interest in you, you go talk to Dick Clark, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're all living here and there and raising kids and doing what we do, just struggling like everybody else was. And John's with Jan and Dean, and we're all doing what we do, but it's separate. And no, we're not meeting every Sunday for a barbecue. So Dick Clark brings the four of us together. Now I'm alone too. And I have a job, and my job is a guy, Cecil. He's got a studio. He's an engineer. I got 3 songs, and I'm alone. So I'm in there having fun with Cecil just for fun to start recording these songs. I got Some Good Years and Is It Anyone?
You
And
write
She
them,
Said
you
to Me.
record them.
Those 3. You write them, you record them. And
Yeah,
that's
I
all.
overdub drums on those. I remember that.
Yeah, and then at the end, we got the vocals. I had the thing almost done, of course, but then I had a drum machine. So we went to a studio. I called John one day, just him and I went down. He put the drums on. It's like, but it was no big deal. We weren't, like Paul said, it's not like we're going to, then we'll get a record label and we'll have a hit. Or it's not that. We're about to enter the only time in our career that we're not a cover band. 100%. Not a cover band, unless we do our own hit. Okay. This is the only time in my history with this band that I'm not in cover band is during the club days of the 80s. I loved it. I love the videos we have from it. I love the songs. I love everything about it.
No,
And
I'm
I
glad
love
you
being a
said
cover
that.
band too.
I don't remember you guys doing cover like old Cowsills songs at all during those sets at the China
We
Club.
didn't. We did
Yeah,
not.
Very rarely.
Yeah, you just had this
Yeah, it was
great
pretty rare.
set of fresh songs that were all amazing, and me and my friends were all blown away. It was just so special.
Here's what I found inspiring as well. 10 years before that, you had recorded an album called Cocaine Drain, which I can tell you right now why that album wasn't released, because that probably would have killed it, major labels. But I've
No,
listened to that album. Susan sounds amazing. And
Teen.
this album was totally in with what was going on at that time.
Hmm.
It's coming out.
We were
That's
new wave,
that's
we
next
were
year.
disco, we were everything.
It's an amazing set of songs, but how come that was never released?
Because we had no business acumen. We had no knowledge of how to do that, and we didn't have any work in.
Like Bob keeps, yes.
Like we were recorded for 5 years, but we had nobody to stop us and tell us, hey, we need to get a deal. I mean, they tried to get a production deal, but they only wanted the girl and the puppy. So it was just
Me again.
so we
The
folded.
10-year. It's also the 10-year thing. Like Paul said, about every 10 years, the other thing that happened about every 10 years was we wrote songs and made an album. You know,
It's what happens.
well, it was the late 80s. We missed that one decade, and Rhythm of the World is the late, so
But you
that's how
see-
we roll. We're not,
Yeah,
we don't go to the
yeah.
office to write songs. We write songs
No.
that are good enough to record, and if it's every 10 years for us, that's what it was.
So be it. Yeah.
Right, but then Susan recorded a single in '77 for Warner Brothers. I think it's the first time I think most people ever heard of Sixto Rodriguez.
Well, they didn't know they were hearing about Sixto Rodriguez back then. I can tell you that.
exactly.
That was just
Sure.
Susan Cowsill's Funky 45 deal that only the people in Los Angeles heard because Wink Martindale liked me and he played me on KFI. But the Sixto thing became cool much later when I was at home in New Orleans and Vic, my sister, called me up. She goes, dude, put on Letterman right now. And I'm like, okay. So I put Letterman on, and there's that guy on Letterman, Sixto. Of course, Rodriguez became a friend. And she's like, this guy has got this trippy store, and it's all these things. And I'm go, okay, why am I involved? She goes, because you covered one of his songs on the Warner Brother thing. And I was like, wow.
Yeah,
So that was cool. It was an accident. It was just, I picked that song. They brought me Horrible Things. Jackson brought me Muhammad's Radio, and I picked I Think of You out of a batch of crap. And
Yeah.
so that's that little story. Yeah, I did that. That was my stay out of high school program because I lived with Paul since I was very young, like around 12, 13 on and off until I was around 15. I don't remember what happened, but my mom made me move home for the 9th grade. And then I got to go back and live my regular life, and I had to get a job. So I got the Warner Brother deal. And that's that story in a nutshell.
Well, let's get back to global here. Okay,
Let's do.
This is an amazing collection of songs. I'm going to tell you that I love everything. I love the vocals. I love the melodies. But the interesting thing is you guys don't sound like an oldies band trying to sound hip. You just sound like a great band. And that's the same thing with Rhythm of the World. This is an album, in my opinion, that is timeless. It does not sound like it was recorded 30 years ago or 26 years ago. It sounds like a contemporary album. And I mean, what do you attribute that to? I mean, were you guys influenced by the 80s or the 90s?
Oh, God, yeah.
What inspired this? I mean, are our four of you big Flock of Seagulls fans?
Only with the hair.
Let me tell you something. Yeah.
But other than that,
Polly,
I don't really know their music, honestly.
Let me tell you something. We just had a guest on our podcast, the Cowsills podcast, John Papagro, okay, from New Orleans. And the way he put it is what happens with us. We're not trying to copy anything, but everything is coming into us, okay? We're sensors for, Flock of Seagulls, all of it, anything from the 80s, 70s, we're soaking it all in, even if it's
Blondie.
background music to our lives. So, but when the four of us, and actually on this one with Robbie Sharp and then the other people with the Rhythm of the World, but when we stepped into the studio, it was to do whatever was necessary and the greatest we could do for the songs. And we had a great engineer, Richard Bosworth, and the team and the conditions definitely enhanced our recording of Global because it was such a great way to record, you know. And Rhythm of the World, we got to record that way too. And they sounded to us, you know, but we're not trying to copy, influence. We have influences, all of us. I mean, John and John and Robbie, who
Yes.
knows? Ask them about the rhythm section. Me, Paul, and Susan, we
Yeah.
never said anything to those two. They just did. And same with Russ and Mary in
And
Rhythm
Mary,
of the
yeah.
World.
We
We're
did
over on the D50 and guitars, and they're over on the rhythm section, and it clicked.
with Global though, we did a lot of pre-production, so we knew what we were going to play when we went into the studio. I don't know if they did that with Rhythm of the World. I wasn't there, but I know that we worked those things out in Uncle's studios.
Those are our club tunes. Yeah, those are our club tunes.
Yeah. Now,
Oh, yeah.
Paul. go ahead.
No, I just want to. So I think what you're hearing, is, for whatever reason, we're really lucky that we can still sing old hits, let's say in the same key. Okay. So there's an energy impact there. Okay. And even though we're in our 70s and 60s and whatnot, we still have that ability. So once you put us together, then what's going to come out is what it is,
Right.
and
Yeah,
it
yeah,
always seems timeless, because we even look at ourselves sometimes and go, wow, we are still singing all this stuff in the normal keys.
I know,
It's just-
and no old guy vibrato yet.
And no
old
old guy
vibrato.
vibrato.
Hey,
and
Oh,
it's
God.
sibling, and it's
Also
sibling.
with-
So
yeah.
all of that stuff put together makes it timeless, and because we're keeping on going.
Yeah, we
By
don't
the
know
way-
what's happening.
And just because we have these artistic gaps in our career, you're still, when you hit Global and Rhythm of the World, you're finding us where we would have been, even if we would have made 7 albums just before them. Okay. We're still where we would have been. I believe this 100%, that when we did both those albums, we would have been in both those places artistically,
Look.
even if we'd have kept recording and kept recording and kept recording.
Yeah,
We
we are
did
not.
evolve as a musical group a little out of the public eye,
I think so, and I also think that, and we've all identified it separately, all 4 of us. We aren't we're an accident waiting to happen. We're a knee-jerk reaction musically. We don't plan it, plot it. Hell, we didn't plan and plot the first thing Dad did. They showed up playing this music. It's how we are. It's what we do. And whenever we approach the bench, it is always just to get the job done. The music came, and here we go. And so
We were
there is
lucky.
no influence or and not anything that your brain really knows. You know what I mean? It's just, yeah, it's all influence. It's all everything. And we're
Here's an
just lucky
influence.
little conduits.
Here's a different influence other than the music on the radio. When we recorded the Cocaine Drain album, we worked with Chuck Plotkin. Look, we were novices. Chuck Plotkin taught us how to write songs, record songs, produce songs, arrange songs. He taught us so much that it was amazing in during those sessions. And you carry those lessons into, I mean, he used to mix at the lowest volume, and that's how we mix. It's like you learn stuff from the people you worked with also, and that's under the radar. But that goes with you also into your future. And his did a lot.
Really
At least,
does.
especially for me, it did.
Oh, absolutely. I think all of us, when we approach anything individually, I know where my knowledge of how to roll comes from. I definitely, it wasn't the Cowsills for me.
He was the first guy that stood over Paul, and he would stand over me, demanding from Paul from the bass and me from my guitar, demanding the stuff that the song needed. And I'm like 29, he's 25, 6, whatever. And what do you want? He goes, I want an intro. And so you learn this stuff, it's terrific.
Yeah, go ahead. Now, you recorded the album, Global, at Daryl Dragon's studio. Did you previously already have a relationship with him and Tony?
No, we had heard about that studio. It was a good location. We knew Tom Petty and Fleetwood Mac had recorded there. Of course, you do a scouting mission, and Ted Nugent. Actually, during the scouting mission, the bow and arrow set up in the back for Ted, and we're going to play basketball instead. But you know what I mean? And then you tour the studio. Here's where, Tom Petty did his solo album. It's a little cubbyhole of a studio. Here's where this happened and that happened. And it just really was a nice place to record. And we had the luxury of picking wherever we wanted to do the record.
You didn't shoot one arrow, Bob? You didn't just shoot one arrow? Just to do it? Yeah, okay.
It was gone by the time we got there. They asked us, well, what do you guys like to do? And we said, oh, well, we like basketball. And then when we got back there, there was a basketball rim and everything. So, yeah.
Rob.
Can we step back a little bit? Because I think this is what the best part of the album story, not your story, is how it came to be, and the kind of, as it's put in the kind of liner notes, the datelineness of how Global came to be is that you were doing a weekly gig in Santa Monica, and then you met somebody.
I'm sitting with the songs like we all said,
Yeah.
and we're done, and we're out in the club scene. We are making some noise,
Yeah.
okay, in an unusual time. At an unusual, we were voted the best unsigned band in Los Angeles one year by BAM magazine.
Awards.
Okay, it was one. Bill Holdship was just so wonderful.
The
Anyway,
Bill
80s were
Holtship's a
great.
great guy. Him and his brother Barry are great.
We're a
Barry,
big fan.
God, I bet Barry's still performing somewhere in Michigan, but maybe not.
He's amazing.
You know, but that's great. But anyway, so we do have the songs. We have not the well-planned focus, but we have focus. We're recording and playing live. Why are we doing that? I don't know, because we're a family band. You know, it's what you do. So now I'm going to meet Gary Ledbetter at the Huntley Hotel in Santa Monica, who has money and passion and loves the band and sells himself not only to me but to the families and to my siblings and to the families, and sells Mobile, Alabama tours. We're getting the key to the city, and he's going to back. We do a
Getting our
showcase.
jobs.
We did a showcase that he attended with a lot of people, and look, no one's going to sign us, okay? But we did a showcase and hoping someone would click on the music. And but as usual with the Cowsills, and I bet everyone agrees, usually we're a little out of step, all right, with what everyone's looking for, okay? So we got to fight that. So now Gary says to me, "Are you?" And he's looking at the people at this showcase, and he looks at me and says, "You tired of this shit? You want to fucking do this?" And I just had an attitude, and I said, "Yeah, let's do it." And so we jump in with Gary Ledbetter, and he's got the money. We quit our jobs. We find Rumble. We have carte blanche to make a record album because we have backing, which we had never had before. And it came to us. We didn't go, let's go find some backing. You know, we're just going to still
We don't
plug
operate
away
that way.
spec time and whatever we could do. But this opened the floodgates of artistry and a way to make an album in a dream way that you've always dreamt of, being able to make an album. Those conditions were set.
And you really
we got
thought
to-
things, yeah, and you really
Go ahead,
thought
Paul.
things were going to happen because hell, we got the key to the city, and the city was Mobile, Alabama. So, man, you get a key to a city gig, and man, we're on top now.
Oh yeah, we were the king of the wilds.
to sell himself to us, Gary Ledbetter flew our families down with children, wives,
It worked.
everybody, first class. Now we
Yeah.
got picked up by a wild wife of his with booze in the front thing. It was a wild ride into Mobile, but and that could have set us off like, maybe we better pay attention to what's going on here. But you know, you get kind of caught up in everything you're referring to, Rob. I mean, here's somebody who believes in us. He's got the money. He knows the songs are good. He believes that they're good. His intentions are good. It's just he's a
crook.
He's a little white collar crime-ish approach about
He's a
it in
crook.
terms of funding that we'll learn about later.
But your history, you've come across slimy people in the entertainment industry, right?
Including me.
Yeah, well,
My goodness gracious.
course.
I mean, he didn't give off those vibes to you.
No, he did not give off those.
He wasn't flying.
He wasn't.
Right.
This guy owned a successful insurance company. The thing that did him in was a hurricane. He owned a successful insurance company, and when a hurricane hit him, they found out everything. And now we're getting called by the FBI.
Okay.
The sessions are shut down. His intentions were good.
Yeah.
He wasn't sleazy. And even the people who took advantage of us who were sleazy, those type of people aren't sleazy out front. You don't know they're sleazy. You know, I'm not going to name names, but we've got many names of people that were sleazy with us that we thought were sugar-coated and okay in the beginning. And you
They were
find
our
out too
uncles
late.
and aunts.
And you
Yeah.
find out too late. But that's okay. So,
Daddy.
but he did bring forth this album. Now he's going to take it down too. Gary took it down and it crashed. You know, we couldn't even mix it. That was but at that point it crashed. We can't mix it. Who cares? You better get back to your jobs. And that's what we did. We left we just walked. You couldn't do anything else. We owed Captain and Tennille 30 grand for the studio.
And
we owed
there's
Boz
kids
8
and
grand.
families
We owed
and-
everybody,
Yeah.
you know.
But it was all done except for the mixing at that point.
Well, no.
Or last
I'm
weekend,
trying to look at a
no.
silver lining here.
The only thing we hadn't done, the only thing,
the recording overdubs were almost done, not quite. It just got shut down and slammed down. There happened to have been a couple of rough mixes. Can't remember if Daryl let you and Boz go back and mix some things just for the ADAT.
here's what happened. We had two things we couldn't record: horns on I Below, and I wanted to put some gunshots on Under the Gun. But those are the only two things I remember. But Boz and I were able to go in just before the collapse and do very good quick mix. And I call them quick mixes because they're not the real deal mixing sessions. They're the ones you want to get the best out of the song in the time constraint you have to mix these to see what you got. Okay.
Right. And then you tear it down.
Yeah, they happen to be really good when we listen to them 6 years later, 7 years later.
I have a question for you. How were they able to sit there? Did they hold them as collateral?
Yes.
That was the whole idea?
They sat in the tape library at Rumbo Recorders with a $30,000 tag on them. I mean, we had to get permission from Daryl to get it out of there.
Yeah.
He had to give us permission, and his position was, why not? You know, it's not going to make any money in the tape library.
But wait, we never got the masters out of there, and in fact, the place shut down. Lost all the masters there.
I know. Well, that's later in the story. Yes, it sat at the tape library in Rumbo. The masters. John's right. I had DATs of the mixes. The tape library is going to go south. We even put Christmas Time in there for safekeeping and Cocaine Drain quarter-inch mix reels in that tape library, and everything got destroyed.
I went down there. 2 years later and got into the building.
You did.
And it was a visual audio place. And I went upstairs, and in the tape library, it was just rolls of 2-inch open boxes, loose, just
destroyed.
Just a freaking night.
Wow, why?
Wow.
Why?
Because Daryl, we'll say it this way, Daryl sold the studio.
Sold it.
Daryl sold the studio, and they disrespected the library.
All right.
In one sentence.
Oh my God, John! I didn't know you saw that in your own eyes.
Yeah, because John, he knew, John's the guy that finds stuff, and we were looking for master reels and stuff. Like, what happened? What happened?
Wow! I didn't know that.
So it's the DAT of the quick mixes that I did leave that building with. That's all we had,
Thank
and
goodness.
that's what we get.
Thank goodness.
That's what we
And
brought
that's
to
our
Duck
release.
Wow. So when did you guys stop playing? Because so Global comes out in 1998. You guys had stopped playing before that, maybe a little bit. I'm thinking.
Anyone remember?
I do.
Okay.
I think I was the catalyst for the stop because I got a new boyfriend. I fell in love with my first love, and I quit the band.
Which one?
White Allen.
Oh, that was Cocaine Drain album.
Oh, Global. Oh, Peter.
There we go.
My first husband.
Next.
So it happened twice. Yeah.
Yeah, no, the
Hey.
boy wins every time here with me.
Susan brings up a good distinction with the Cowsills and it's ironic because our dads,
Thank you, John, by the way.
the philosophy. Our dad lived the philosophy that one woman with all these sons in the band is going to take down the operation because something bad's going to happen. So this is freaking him out, and it ended up being historically, it was going to be always a guy. Always Susan's guy is going to get in the way.
They were cute. Yeah, I wanted to be a wife and a mother, and while I was doing all this other stuff, so anytime I thought that potential was there, I went for that. And these poor guys, they just be like, "And bye."
And you ended up being a continental drifter.
Go ahead, Paul.
I did.
Well, I was just going to tell everybody that
it was
we
more
would do
than
these. We would do these 10-year outings, and then basically what we did was lick our wounds, heal, and get back ready to do it all again.
What he said, really.
Listen, Stephen, it's the collapse that happened during Global. It was harsh, it was steep, and it went down.
That's what happened to that,
broke it up. It wasn't a guy, it wasn't a girl.
Not that time.
You just to recover from a collapse like that, because believe me, we quit our jobs. To recover from a collapse like that is a scramble, and you got no time you can emote all you want, but you got to get right back to it, to life, because you got some recovering to do,
Yeah.
you know.
And quick.
Well, as I'm a sibling, but a question would be, these circumstances are beyond regular life circumstances, right? Do you,
Right.
with all your failures, did you blame, rightfully so, the circumstances and fall back that you have this family that you always seem to come back together? Is that your old
Yeah.
philosophy or no?
Yeah, nobody took a knife to their wrist on any of this stuff, man. It was
Yeah.
like,
You don't
it
blame
was
each
a big
other.
whatever to us.
You didn't blame each other. That's what my
No.
Oh God, no,
Never,
no,
never.
Oh my
no.
goodness.
no.
When you're in
No, we're the
the-
last people to
I-
blame each other.
I blame
Okay.
our ignorance half the time on what
Yeah.
what we're doing.
that's
We're the
how you-
Beverly
That's how
Hillbillies.
you
Not each
learn.
other.
You learn stuff that way.
We don't
We
learn,
call
Bob.
ourselves
Wrong.
hillbillies. Yeah, maybe you do. That's so nice thought.
Well, before we skip ahead to when the album came out, you managed to rope in some pretty cool people. Obviously, we understand how you got the DB's Peter Hall sample, who Ronnie and I just interviewed a month or two back. And then you also had the Knacks, Burton Navarre, and the Bengals' Vicky Peterson. How did and John Stamos. How did you get all these people involved?
Just called them
I'll
up.
claim mine and move along. I'll claim my two. Peter and Vicky belong to me. Next. I mean, they were the people I
John.
knew.
I own
John.
the old Stamos.
John Stamos. John Stamos.
And our engineer knew Burton Navarre, and it was great to meet him. Look, I'm only so good on a guitar. Some of these things needed more, okay, and I wasn't going to be able to do it. But on the
Right.
ones we got Burton, he was, and he was so brilliant. You should have seen how he worked. It was the most insane thing I ever saw in my life. But he is great and was great, and we're fortunate for those four.
All I can say, how the good shines through. There were some good years. There were some good years. How the good shines through. How the good. Help me to remember. I love that look in your eye. What I believe is love comes around to help me make it through. And I believe in God up above, and I believe in you. What I believe is love comes around to help me make it through. And I believe in God up above, and I believe in you. She don't wanna love me anymore. She don't wanna be the heart that mine beats for. Is it any wonder? Is it any wonder? Is it any wonder? She don't wanna love me anymore. She don't wanna love me anymore. She don't wanna love me. She don't wanna love me anymore.
Okay, so let's skip ahead to.
And I want to clear up something that is still not correct on the album. But on a song called She Said to Me, there's a lead guitar part played, and it says Bobby Giannetta, and he was a bass player friend of ours. He is not Bobby Donati, who played lead guitar on there. And I didn't catch it soon enough to have that changed.
Wow, that's an easy.
cover
That's
going
an
out.
easy screw up.
Because again, it's
And-
the bad
Can I
influence.
say something about Bobby?
Please
This
do.
was a boyfriend of this was a Vicky Pearson's
Donati.
boyfriend, okay? Right, Donati, and a great guitar player. And one of the things to this day, when I hear it, and I think She Said to Me is really good. But one of the things that bothered me, and it's just a casualty of what happened, was that with these quick mixes, and in a way it's kind of ghostly, so I think it's kind of cool since he died,
Right.
you know, but his lead
Yeah.
guitar work, and she said to me, is very in the background. It's very buried in echo and just buried, it seems to me, and I don't know how that happened, but if we could have got our hands on it again, that would not have happened. But in a way it's
But it
kind of
sounds
eerie.
cool.
I still,
Yeah.
But
it sounds great.
Yeah.
yeah,
Good
but
work,
it's way
Johnny.
back. It's way back.
You know, I be before. Oh, okay, Rob, go ahead.
Well, I'm a vinyl nerd. Ronnie knows this because that's basic. We connect that way, and Steven knows this. So my one question is Doug Sax. So in the vinyl world, the vinyl resurgence, mastering engineers have kind of gotten rock star status.
Yeah.
And Doug Sax is looked on as like he's one of the top 3 big guys.
He did Dark Side.
Huh?
Yeah. He
Like,
did Dark Side of the Moon. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I want to know how he was how you got to him and what he did, because people bow about him.
He has been a friend for decades. We've known Doug
Really?
Sax for a long, long time.
I did not know that.
We've never gone to anybody else that I can remember, Bob.
Doug was there from early on. And the reason I thought of Doug was because he was the best, of course, but because of this history and because this was going to be difficult. Okay. But we needed a rescue. And so we thought of Doug Sax and brought the DAT to Doug Sax. I sat in front of him and told him our story. And and he took the meeting, by the way. He was a big guy at the time, and he had underlings that he gave all the work to at the time. Okay, he didn't do it himself anymore when we reached him, but God bless this man. He did agree to do this, and so he looks at me. He goes, "All right, so what you're telling me is all you have is this DAT. You don't have a record company. You kind of don't have a band, and you want me to master it." Is what I'll never forget that sentence. And I said, yes, that's what this is. And he goes, okay. So then we set up this mastering session. This thing's going to last maybe an hour and 10 minutes.
This
He's
is
going to
what,
blow
97, 98?
98.
Okay.
When did it come out?
Was
Just
he
before
the
it came out.
Was he
Yeah.
the mastering
I'm down
lab?
at the mastering lab. I'm
The
down at the
mastering
mastering
lab,
lab. Okay.
Yeah.
And so it's a small room, giant speakers, and a board, an EQ board. And he's like a scientist. So he stands there. He gives a verse and a chorus, and he is on to the next song.
Oh, wow.
He gets a song done, and you can barely hear it. And then he plays it back, and he moves away from the thing. He jumps in front of the 2 speakers. They're right there, and you can barely. You got to hold your ears. It's so loud. Okay. Now he's going through this. Now he gets to she said to me. And he goes, what happened here? He looks at me. I said, what do you mean? He goes, this one's going to be hard. I don't know what he's talking about. I don't even know if I'm wasting money with this guy because I'm watching him do it. And he said I could, I thought they went through the whole song and EQing it, but he's moving his hands constantly. And he said, I'll do what I can. And that's what you got. And he just did that. And what he did, the answer is he rescued Global. It would not have been able to go out before he got it. You couldn't even hear tambourines or guitar parts or anything. And he brought life to all the arrangements. I couldn't believe you couldn't believe it. You couldn't believe it.
Now, when you had this album, you had finished it in what, 92 or whatever, 91, 92. And then here it is another 6 years later when you're mastering it. Had you thought about this album all that time, or was it something that maybe
when the internet came? Before the internet, no, you never thought about anything. You're living your hard life again.
Yeah.
Okay. You just are. You're over it again.
I told you to put it out, I thought. Jim.
You what?
I thought Jim was the one who told you to put Global out.
Yeah, but only because there was an internet to put it on.
Who talked you into that?
Right. So my brother-in-law Jim calls me and says, "There's an internet. Let's put out Global," because he thought it was great too. And I look. You barely know. What do you mean? What do you mean an internet? An internet? But
you made a pretend label and everything. Yeah.
And so this internet thing's pretty cool. We can hang a shingle. We'll worry about getting people to it later because that's going to be the real challenge. Anyone can hang it out there, right? And so could we. So we did. We designed it. We made up a record label name, Robin Records, rock and roll. We want an R&R, rock and roll, rest and recreation, all that business. Had a nice design put on it. And we went to, is it CD Baby? Did this for us, you guys? Anyway,
They were like the
CD
early,
Usually,
yeah,
some CD
they're the early
Baby.
guys to go
And we
to.
gave it to them,
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
made and we ordered 3,000 CDs of Global, and then we only sold them from our website. By this time, we do have a website, the Cowsills website. It's very primitive. All of it's very primitive, and we end up getting calls from other countries. Okay, this was the bizarre thing with Global. Yes, 3,000. We sold them. We're done. It's over. Global's done. We sold out, but it was played in 23 countries. It sold. So we thought the distribution was compelling, even though the volume kind of just pointed to what could be. The distribution pointed to what could be, and maybe this is where we're at today. We don't know. We put our records out, and we're critically acclaimed, which is good. You don't want to be uncritically acclaimed, and then we wait to see. We wait to see if we can sell any of these things. And we're in the world of digital and streaming, and it's just like rain coming down on me. And like Paul says, you put your new record out, you got it on the label, it's out there on the shelves in stores if there are stores. But everybody who wants to can go on the internet and find that thing for free and listen to
Free.
it. And that's what you're up
Free.
against.
but there, I was telling Bob earlier before we went on, that CD, there's a place called Discogs. It's selling for over $100. People want physical media, and they're willing to fork over the dough for it.
Were you guys aware that this album had become this sort of legendary, overlooked or lost album? Because whenever, sure, the hits come up when people talk about the Cowsills, but then everyone's going like, "Have you heard Global?"
You
And
just
That's
laughing
kinda
because
cool.
you describe all our product.
We're like Rocky Horror Picture
To
Show,
laugh
right?
at that one. Yeah. The answer is yes. Yeah. What year you want?
People
What
throw
album?
spoons at you when they see you.
Yes. We always think we make good record. Who doesn't think they make a good record? If you don't think you made a good record, don't make records.
Oh, didn't
I mean,
you?
those are
Yeah,
pretty
there you
good.
go. I like
Yeah.
all mine too, Bob.
I
Yeah.
mean, 2x2 and On My Side is a band
All two of them.
reinventing itself in the public. It's not going to work, So, but
On
they're
My
all
Side
good.
is incredible, Bob.
yeah,
Thank
Shit.
you.
Yes,
Hey,
I didn't want to
Thank
bring it
you.
up, but since you did, yeah.
no, it is. And
I
Mike
love
Mills
that
from
album.
Mike Mills from REM texted me last year. He had found it in a bin in some, and he was like, "What is this?"
Oh, yeah.
Because his Cowsills was not that. His little boy had, and
Steve,
it's his favorite album.
There should be a box set version of that album.
Steve,
Not
Hey,
kidding.
Johnny?
Not kidding.
Steve Lukather texted me like a couple of weeks ago, just going off on all the Cowsill stuff. He's just went down a rabbit hole.
Wormhole.
So,
That's
somebody
cool.
somebody from Argentina today asked, "Is there ever going to be a Cowsills box set with all their
Yes.
classic albums?" And I'm
Yeah.
thinking,
Well, we're glad you are.
We're not done recording them all. There'll be a box set.
Yeah.
because I'm thinking, well, Now
Gene-
Sounds has done it for Bo Brummels and
How they
They're-
selling?
what was that?
How they selling?
Well, they sell.
Well,
Johnny.
no, box sets sell to
Let
a
me say one thing.
particular group of people. But anyway,
Let's
May I
go.
say one thing?
A smart
Here-
group of people.
Here's a box set. To me, the box set thing. I wouldn't be shocked if we did put a box set out eventually before we're dead. And it was the biggest selling thing we ever had because finally they all caught on and we're going to die. But they're expensive. They're voluminous. We're not the Kingston Trio or Frank Sinatra. We
Done,
understand
guys.
they're high ticket pieces of product. Having said that, John Cowsill and Lou Simon are our team members in terms of
I will make
producing a box set of Cowsills. We have stuff that John had a friend find. We found the very first 19 recordings when I was 14 years old and John was 7 or 8 in the studio. You wouldn't believe this stuff. Jimmy Reed stuff and Bright Lights Big City better than John Mayer's version. It's incredible. And we were
Right.
kids. So yeah, this box set stuff, and
absolutely
we'll get there.
that
We'll
the
get there.
years. Absolutely, we got it.
Yeah, this is all I can say is I'm so glad that Global is now being. I had 30 questions written down. I think I maybe asked 3 or 4 of them because
You're in trouble.
No. We've all managed to talk about everything that I wanted to touch
Wonderful.
on.
Oh, good.
And but I know that viewers are going to go, well, they didn't talk about the early years. What inspired the Cowsills to start creating music?
I was too little to answer this. Go ahead, guys.
Was it a singular moment or like a series of events?
It was music itself inspired us. Really, literally, music itself. I'm talking from the age of 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
We are involved in music, okay? And it's a lot of things, because once you have your interest, then you pay attention to what's around you. Now we're on the television shows of the day. It's Mitch Miller, it's the Lennon sisters, it's the Osmonds on Andy Williams, it's the McGuire sisters. There's so much influence and harmonizing you hearing on television back in those days, and real clear
Yeah,
too.
yeah, that's really true.
And you got influences going on, and then you're playing guitar, then folk music comes on, and like, who's not going to get into the folk music craze? You're 12, you're 13, I'm into that. So we're into folk music. We're in Newport, Rhode Island. We get the folk festival every summer. We're influenced. But then the Beatles are going to show up, and go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and also Mom, actually, I mean, she was singing all the time, this gal. And so, I think maybe it got into our oldest brother, Bill, and it could have gone that way. You don't know.
Yeah.
Well, the thing of it is, go ahead, Johnny.
I was going to say, the first memory for me of any of that stuff is living in Canton, Ohio, and listening to Bill upstairs.
Where it was.
That's really big time. I was awake right then, and I was 4 turning 5 there.
Look, y'all, it's our DNA. This is what we do.
In Ohio, Mom, right? Yeah. I remember Bill is our older brother, by the way, Bill, and myself and our mother were in a talent contest at St. Joseph's Grammar School in Canton, Ohio, in 1959, and we sang Rock and Rollin' Ocean, and we won. Now, Mom's going to disappear for decades. I don't know what happens to Mom. She's in and out. I don't know what goes on with her.
She didn't want to do it.
She had 7 kids.
Kings Park in 1960. Kings Park in 1964, we're all on stage, and then that goes away. It's weird.
Look, I can barely wrangle a family vacation with my kids. The thought of taking them on tour and working with them, that's what was wrong with Mom. That's why she kept coming and going.
And another question, as we know, everyone's going to want to know, 3 words: the Partridge Family.
Love them.
How? I've heard rumors that you guys were supposed to be in the show, and then I've heard rumors that you never were going to be in the show, but it was based on you. But I do know that I think Wes Farrell, was it Wes Farrell who was your musical? Yeah, he went over there. But then so did like Tom Baylor and John Baylor and like the Ron Hicklin singers and all that kind of stuff.
So did Tony Romeo, who wrote Indian Lake and Poor Baby.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, okay.
It's just the team, but left us, and that's fine. We didn't want to do it anyway. We were teenage guys. We were recording and touring artists. We couldn't imagine going down to a TV studio. But here's my take on the Partridge Family. Ultimately, their real value to me was if I said, well, you remember the Cowsills? No. Rain the Park, I love the park. No, hair, give me a head. You could always say the Partridge Family. And if you could say that, you got them. They knew the Cowsills because of the Partridge Family. Not one song I mentioned. So they were always there at the end for me to say, well, what about the Partridge? If you're trying to, and everyone does that.
And miraculously, it is 2024. And I can look at a 30-something-year-old kid, and if they don't know who the Cowsills are, they know who the Partridge Family is.
Yeah.
Go figure. 30.
Crazy.
You know what I mean? Oh yeah, my mom. Oh yeah. I'm like, okay, oh yeah. Good deal.
Yeah.
It's one of the unique relationships in the music business because they never had a band. Can you imagine if we could have done a show one night? I don't know if they had a band, but that's just old man thinking.
Yeah. Sentimental old school.
I'm a big YouTube person, and Steven and I have YouTube channels, but your clips are there. They fall into people's feeds. They see whatever variety shows you are. They see Susan stealing the show, and stuff like that.
All our home movies are on YouTube. That's for sure.
Yeah.
No, totally, John.
they
I
live,
put that in a song.
I've gone online and seen stuff I've never seen. I saw a guy in Italy in a hallway with a guitar trying to sing the Rain, the Park, and other things to his girlfriend. You can see awesome stuff. And the content on the
fun.
Cowsills, for a band that really doesn't put it up themselves, there's a lot of content on our
But
group.
even you
so
tour
impressed.
now, and there's audience members filming you and putting it up on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yep.
you don't
guys
have
ever-
to do the heavy thing.
Do you guys ever feel you have to do I Think I Love You?
We love doing I
For
Think I Love
years.
You. We don't have to do it. We want to do it. We bring it in. It's got a season. It comes in, it goes out. We love it.
Yeah.
Well, and
Well,
also,
some of us
so
love it.
we do these cruises,
Mhm.
and
There you go.
and so all of a sudden it was brought to our attention, hey, we got a 70s cruise. We want you guys on it. And so then we start thinking of 70 songs. Well, I
That's
Think
a
I Love You.
no-brainer.
That's right there. And, for whatever reason, again, it could have been a Jimi Hendrix fan, but our demographic are so old, they thought they were a Partridge Family fan. And so they love that song, A Love with Purple Haze. And they don't know why.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
You're hilarious.
Yeah. What's the average of people coming up to you and saying The Rain, the Park, and Other Things, and I Love the Flower Girl? What's the average when
Flower
Girl.
Girl wins.
okay.
No one says that title.
Absolutely.
No one says
Yeah,
that
I call it
title.
that too. I don't call it the rain. The Park.
I call it that too, John. When we were kids, that's what we thought it was.
I call it. They made us change it because there was that kind of slow R&B song called "I Love the Flower Girl." But I just want to say before we end, because I not that I sense an ending, but November
Yes.
Global is coming out, and go get it.
One more thing, though.
Yeah,
One more thing, you guys. The new cover. What do you think?
I think
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh,
Cool.
Omnivore-
It's like,
Good.
well, I was going to say it's like a cloud. If you stare at that for any amount of time, you're going to see so much in there. I mean, you'll see a wolf, I think, attacking a cat, and
Yeah.
it's like
It's a Rorschach test, right?
it's crazy.
Oh,
I,
boy.
at first I was thinking, what the heck is this? And then as I stared and stared at it, it's kind of fun to stare at in the way you stare at a cloud.
I
and
cannot wait
shapes.
to start staring at it because I
Do
want
it.
to
You'll
see
see
all
what
you
I'm talking
see.
about.
I know I will, brother.
Now,
I told you
I
guys that
took it-
earlier.
I took
You
it
did.
as a picture. And by the way, good job, Omnivore, because we let them just
Yeah, good job,
repackage
art
this thing.
workers.
We said, you guys get to do this.
Yeah.
They did all of this. And I like it because it shows a disruptive planet, a disruptive world. It's not so smooth, it's edgy. It's a mess. And you look into the mess, and there's, like Paul says, you can kind of get lost in there. It's a good piece of art. I like it.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
I'm
funny
glad-
though.
I'm
for the
glad you said that.
Cowsills, Usually, go ahead.
I'll just say, I'm glad you said that, you guys, because I have Greg Allen from Omnivore in the next, not to get all Annie Hall here. Greg,
Oh, guy,
come
Greg's
here.
there.
I have Greg Allen
Oh,
from
get
Omnivore in the
out of
next
here.
room.
You don't have an
I swear to
Omnivore
God.
guy.
He's
Greg
visiting
I am
Allen.
us.
Russ Broussard leaving for a gig. There we go.
Greg Allen is responsible
Ronnie
for the
just doesn't want
packaging.
to.
It's Greg.
Greg.
Where's
Greg.
Greg?
So this is Greg Allen. He's with Omnivore. He's responsible for the artistic repackaging of Global, right?
Yes.
Yes, and
You
he
did a
lives in
good job.
Ronnie's attic.
He
You
did
did a
the
good job, Greg.
Sacramento
I
bit.
could tell
Yes.
you.
Hi,
So,
Greg.
Hey, how you doing?
hey, Greg, great cover.
Thank
I
you.
don't know if you had that in mind for all these things to be inside of that, but it's excellent. And I want you to know that you're the first guy that's never put a human being on one of our covers. There's always a slew of
Aren't
people.
on our cover. Yes.
True.
So good on
So-
you.
Good point.
So before we go, John, Paul, Bob, Susan,
That's us.
do you guys realize the impact that you've had on so many lives over the years? The positive impact, the fact that your music reaches and touches people in their darkest hour, and it will lift them up. And if they're feeling joyful, it'll lift them even higher. And you continue to do that even with Global and with Rhythm of the World. And if you didn't know that before, I want to tell you that right now.
You're very sweet.
Appreciate those words.
You're really sweet. And I think I'm just really starting, which is a really fun thing to live long enough to get to experience.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm really starting to understand that. And that, man, you can't plan that. That's like a treat at the end.
Yeah.
You know, that like something that wasn't why we were doing it. And it certainly, we were kids. So, wow.
No. And we're glad,
accidentally,
and yeah, and we're glad we touched people's lives like that.
big time.
Yeah, I always feel sometimes that you're somebody's angel, even though you don't feel like one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right.
You
Yeah, I
help.
know what you mean.
They'll call you an angel, say, "What the hell?" Well, you had something that helped them, and
Yep.
so
Right.
and
Right. You never know what.
I think are an angel
Oh,
to me, and they would
yeah.
laugh at that. So
Yeah.
To your point, I've worked in the movie industry, and I always say this is the person you're doing it for. I've worked hard all week. I've had enough. I want to forget about my problems for an hour or 2 hours. I also want to get something to eat. But that's really what you help people do. I think that's what entertainment does for people. And to
Yes.
I think it's our
Exactly, Rob.
kismet.
It's actually the magic of music. It's not just us that get to do that.
And you guys are magicians.
Right.
this
Well, that's for
magician,
sure, because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
this,
Yeah.
this magician is going to disappear because his battery said he has 3%
Oh,
on it.
okay, so we would like to.
You look super cute.
I would
Go
like to
ahead,
thank Bob Cowsill, Susan Cowsill, John Cowsill, Paul Cowsill. Remember, Global is now or is available November
Number 8th.
8th on Omnivore Recordings. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for a lifetime of music that we will continue to enjoy for the next 100
Love
decades.
to all. Love to
Thank you,
see Ronnie.
Stephen and Ronnie and Rob. Thank you. Bob has
Mhm.
one last thing to say.
One last factoid will be the Golden Nugget in Las Vegas, November 8th, celebrating, and we'll have Global on the merch table.
Global.
Fantastic. Thank you,
Love you
everybody.
guys.
Okay.
Thanks,
Bye,
everybody,
y'all.
for watching. Goodbye.
Thank you.
We love it.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Flowers in her hair, flowers everywhere. I love the flower. Was she reality or just a dream to me? I love the flower. Her love showed me the way to find a sunny day. Sunny, sunny, sunny day. Was she reality or just a dream to me?
Go ahead.
I just needed to complete a thought that I didn't complete because, with so many people, you get sidetracked and stuff. It was a lot of fun. But when talking about the mastering of Global, of the reissue of Global, yeah, Doug Sachs, as we know, just the mastering lab, #1 back then. I mean, he was the king of mastering, and he rescued our project, etc. But now, 30 years later, the technology has changed. There's things at your disposal to make something that was as great as it could be at the time even better. And you can even think that at the time because that was the best. But now 30 years now, Michael Graves gets this Global, and it goes through his ears and his hands, and it comes out better. And I needed to acknowledge that it comes out improved over what even Doug Sachs did 30 years ago for probably a lot of reasons. But I got to tell you, if it's your own piece of work, which you know so intimately, you can hear any nuance of differences as soon as it passes through somebody else's talent in their ears. And so when it got back from Michael, I really did sit kind of amazed that I would not have thought that you could make it even better than it was based on the story of what happened and what we even had to work with at the foundation of all this.
Yeah.
So that was great.
No,
Yeah.
well, he's not a shabby dude. He's a Grammy Award winning mastering engineer.
Yeah, Omnivore hands us our album with our Grammy Award winning and multi-nominated Michael Graves doing the mastering. It's like, how do they find all these people? They're just sitting around, goofing around and say, hey, here's an album by the Cowsills. Can you help it out? To us, it was a big name that I didn't know he had an association with the Omnivore or anything like that. We don't know the histories.